During the Sino-Japanese War, the CCP cried out to resist the Japanese. On the other hand, it hid in the enemy's rear areas. The CCP completely left the KMT army alone on the front lines. During the Sino-Japanese War, the KMT lost over 200 marshals, while the commanding officers of the CCP side bore nearly no losses. During the entire Sino-Japanese War, the only major battles the CCP fought were the Pingxing Pass Battle and the 100 Regiment Battle. In the Pingxing Pass Battle, the CCP was neither the leader nor the predominant force. In fact, the CCP troops merely ambushed Japanese supply units. The 100 Regiment Battle that the CCP later boasted about was at that time criticized in an internal document. It had violated the strategic policies of the party's Central Committee and caused extremely negative influences. In reality, the battle simply revealed the CCP's military strength. This made it difficult for the party to continue its policy of focusing only on expanding itself. This was one of the reasons why Peng Dehuai, one of the commanders of the battle, was condemned and purged from the central government during the Cultural Revolution. Although the CCP claimed to be anti-Japanese to win people's hearts, in reality, the CCP fought shoulder to shoulder with Japanese invaders to defeat the KMT. After the Japanese occupied the city of Shenyang on September 18, 1931, the CCP instigated the people in the KMT-controlled areas to rebel, calling on workers to strike and soldiers to revolt in attempts to overthrow the nationalist government. When the anti-Japanese war broke out in 1937, the KMT had more than 1.7 million armed soldiers. The total size of the CCP army, including the new Fourth Army, did not exceed 70,000 people. The CCP could be eliminated in a single battle. Therefore, during its cooperation with the KMT, the CCP gave priority to the struggle for political power. While the KMT was busy fighting the Japanese, the CCP took advantage of it for themselves. The goal of the CCP was to use this chance to expand its power while conveniently breaking the KMT. On January 24, 1961, Mao Zedong said, when he met with a Japanese government official, "It is because the Japanese army took half of China that caused the Chinese people to understand, to take up arms and fight, and establish many anti-Japanese resistance bases. It created the conditions for victory in the so-called War of Liberation. So the Japanese warlords and monopolistic capitalists have done a good deed. If I had to thank someone, I'd thank the Japanese warlords." No wonder the historians of the CCP say the 8-year anti-Japanese war established the fundamentals for the victory of the Liberation War. Espionage is the fifth inherited trait of the CCP. Infiltration, sowing dissent, and disintegration and replacement are the unique methods it used to incite rebellion and seize power. The Xi'an incident is a typical example. In December 1936, Zhang Shiliang and Yang Hucheng, two KMT generals, kidnapped Chiang Kai-shek, the leader of the KMT, in Xi'an. The Xi'an incident helped the CCP escape from the crisis of its own elimination, and also gave the CCP the opportunity to latch onto the KMT government for a second time. According to CCP textbooks, the Xi'an incident was a military coup initiated by Zhang and Yang, forcing Chiang Kai-shek to fight against the Japanese. As a matter of fact, this coup was directly instigated by the CCP. Before the Xi'an incident, Many CCP members had already gathered around Yang Hucheng and Zhang Shiliang. Among those working at Yang Hucheng's side, his own wife, Xu Baozhen, was a CCP member and worked in Yang's political department of the army. Xu married Yang Hucheng in January 1928 with the approval of the CCP. CCP member Wang Bingnan was an honored guest in Yang's home at the time. Wang was sent by the Comintern to persuade Yang to detain Chiang Kai-shek. The CCP members around Yang and Zhang directly instigated the coup. At the beginning of the Xi'an incident, the leaders of the CCP wanted to kill Chiang Kai-shek. In order to pin down the Japanese and prevent them from attacking the Soviet Union, Stalin personally wrote to the Central Committee of the CCP asking them not to kill Chiang Kai-shek. The CCP could not destroy the KMT, so the CCP changed its tone. The CCP forced Chiang Kai-shek to accept so-called cooperation a second time, in the name of joint resistance against the army of the Japanese. The Red Army was soon turned into the 8th Route Army, and the nationalist government paid its soldiers and supplied their provisions. The CCP first was like the bad guy, pointing the gun at Chiang Kai-shek, but then turned around and acted like the good guy. One must admire the CCP's unmatched skills of deception. During the 3 years of civil war, the CCP managed to plant a secret agent that Chiang Kai-shek ended up keeping in close confidence. Liu Fei, an undercover agent for the CCP, was the Deputy Minister of Defense. He was in charge of dispatching the KMT army. Before the KMT army found out about their next assignments, the information had already reached the headquarters of the CCP. After the anti-Japanese war was over, with the strength it had accumulated during the 8-year war, the CCP then enjoyed the fruits of the labor of the KMT. The CCP selfishly launched the so-called War of Liberation to overthrow the KMT government, bringing the disaster of war to the people of China once again after they had just finished 8 years of war. In 1947 and 1948, the CCP signed the Harbin Agreement and the Moscow Agreement with the Soviet Union. The CCP surrendered national rights and interests and gave away resources from the Northeast in exchange for the Soviet Union's full support in foreign relations and military affairs. According to these agreements, the CCP promised the Soviet Union special transportation privileges in China's Northeast, provided the Soviet Union with products from the Northeast, such as cotton and soybeans, and military supplies in exchange for advanced weapons. The CCP granted them preferential mining rights in China, allowed them to station armies in the Northeast and Xinjiang, and permitted them to set up the Far East Intelligence Bureau in China. If war broke out in Europe, the CCP would send an expeditionary army of 100,000 plus 2 million laborers to support the Soviet Union. In addition, the CCP promised to merge some special regions in Liaoning province into North Korea, if necessary. The resources and capital the CCP used in the Civil War were accumulated by not putting up resistance against the Japanese, as well as by selling out China's national rights and interests. Its coming to power was also at the expense of countless civilian lives.